All you, Tara.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for bearing with me while I dealt with my technical difficulties. So, got a packed agenda today, but so yeah, let's first start off with some introductions. Then I can see who all's here. Do you want to just take it away, Ange? I don't know if y'all are all seeing your names alphabetically, but.
Hi, I'm Ange. I'm fiction librarian and at Oak Park in adult services. I mean, Oak Lawn. Whew, I know where I work. It's been a long week. Yeah, hi everyone. Happy to be here.
Awesome. And Anne Marie.
Yes, I'm here.
And where are you at, Anne Marie?
I am from the Glen Ellen Public Library, and I work in the materials processing department, which is also known as technical services.
Awesome. Thanks. And
Hi, I'm Doug Ferry, Tinley Park Public Library Adult Reference.
Oh. Graham?
Everyone, Graham Dostal, also from Tinley Park and in adult reference.
Great. And Jane.
Oh,
hey
hello.
everyone.
Oh,
I'm Jane from.
Sorry.
Hi. Sorry. This is Jane. I'm from St. Charles Public Library. I'm in youth services.
Jane, did your email address change recently?
It did. Yes, my last name changed.
Okay. Cool.
Same Jane, just different name.
I'll make a note to update your email address because I noticed I got a bounce on it today. Okay.
I realized when I registered for this, I registered under my old email address, but then was able to come in as this. So anyway, yeah.
Oh,
Still
that's
me.
good. Right, Jason.
Jason, assistant director at the Elmwood Park Public Library.
And Jean.
Jean Jansen. I am youth services manager at the Villa Park Public Library.
And Julie.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm on a
Yes.
different. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, good. Too. I'm Julie Tegmeyer. I'm with the St. Charles Public Library, and I am in tech services. I'm the cataloging librarian.
Great, welcome. Michelle.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Kurzak. I'm the head of Youth and Teen Services at the Messenger Library in North Aurora.
Cool, and we got two Sarahs. How about Sarah Kovac?
Hi, I am an adult services librarian at the Carroll Stream Public Library.
And Sarah Slack.
Hi, this is Sarah Slack. I am the electronic resources librarian at the St. Charles Public Library.
Cool, and Sharon. Are you there,
muted.
Sharon?
Hi.
Hi.
I am sorry. I'm Sharon Reislitz from the Dyersburg Public Library, and I'm a children's librarian.
And Tony.
Hi, I'm Tony. I'm head of adult services at the Indian Prairie Public Library in Darien.
Awesome. I think that's everyone. If I didn't miss anyone or no one snuck in. All right. So our first item on the agenda is a topic that Jean brought up. So Jean, I'm gonna let you take it away.
All right. The super fun topic of consistency, trying to be consistent in the catalog. This originally came up, I had a ticket I submitted, which Dave and I talked and he handled that. Because we were getting different results in the mobile, the desktop, and then the SWAN app, some of which turned out to be a setting that had not been reset that we should have noticed, but it just kind of, I guess, raised my awareness of the patron experience and how we can try and make it more consistent going forward. If that makes sense.
Can you give us an example?
Well, the setting I originally had noticed turned out to be the all library setting, and ours had been set to Villa Park, and I think we just forgot to set it back after all the COVID thing had gone on. And I was happy to recently learn that pretty much everybody's got all libraries as their default setting.
Yeah, we switched that back for everyone when Pick Up Anywhere was back in action.
Yes. So it was hard for me to see that it was still defaulting to Villa Park in the results, even though it would say all libraries. So that was something that was remedied since then. But I mean, not necessarily enterprise, but like looking at Aspen, how we can kind of try and all be more consistent.
Hey, Tara, can you toggle over to Enterprise and show what Jean's describing? Because I think this is what you and I had a discussion this week about this, that we were going to share some of this next Tuesday in our monthly Now Fireside, because it is confusing and it's related to a bug in Enterprise and also configuration, right?
Yeah, so basically, and you know what, now, unfortunately, well, fortunately and unfortunately, there's no catalogs that are set to it. Basically, if you force a default, so like even if I set article search or downloadable ebooks and audiobooks, if I force the default, then Enterprise is going to show that default here no matter what. So like now, as it's set, if I say I search downloadable ebooks and audiobooks, it's going to accurately reflect the setting that I set. And it will preserve that setting until I change it. But what was happening is if you force a default, every time the search page reloads, it will just show the default. So for example, I would, if you were set to Villa Park Public Library, and someone changed it to say all libraries did a search, this would show Villa Park Public Library here, even though the results were what you'd selected. So that was super confusing for a lot of people. And
yeah, we saw that too.
So some libraries, like in their internal enterprise profiles, had it set to had different settings, but just with COVID and changing everything, I'm like, I don't know what everyone's is. So I'm just going to change it to all libraries. And, if anyone puts in a ticket, we can always change it back. But also if this group kind of feels like, well, that bug and the benefits of, as Jean said, a consistent search experience are, outweigh the benefits of having the internal catalog or your external catalog limited to your collection. So I think we only maybe have, I don't know that we had any libraries using that anymore. Pre-COVID, actually. I know St. Charles had for a minute, and I know y'all had talked about getting rid of it, and I can't remember if you did or not.
We, Indian Prairie, the search box on our webpage is coded to default to search Indian Prairie. That's how we have it.
I believe Eisenhower, I know we don't have an Eisenhower person here today, but I think they did the same thing, and that's a nice alternative. You can limit that search to your collection, but then it's not going to come with all the same bugs and problems.
So Tara, if I'm a patron now at Villa Park and I come in, it starts at all libraries, but if I change it to Villa Park, it will stay Villa Park during my session, right?
Yes. Well, it will stay that until you change it to something else. So
right.
like
Okay.
did this search, for beans. I'll stick to, and then I search for like corn.
Are you
It's gonna,
hungry?
I'm not actually, I just ate pizza. It was wonderful. Yeah, so that's gonna stick to Villa Park until I change it. So
So now by you setting all of our beginning default to scope to all libraries, we now have a consistent method
yeah,
and presentation. Okay.
and I should say, I don't know that there is actually even the ability to set a default scope in Aspen. I'm not sure, but I would advise against it. Just because I mean, typically people, when they're using the catalog, they tend not to change the defaults unless they, they'll most of the time stick with the defaults. And then so it's kind of considered better practice to limit down and have any limits and filters be something the user initiates versus something they're sort of forced into.
Can you just clarify that the mobile and app both also search all to as default?
Yes, they should everything should search all. I should also clarify that the mobile version of Enterprise and the desktop version of Enterprise are exactly the same website. So the only reason you would get different results is if you have different search limits set.
Is that change in the app recent? Because I feel like I
Yeah.
often need to switch it to search all.
It was with the pickup anywhere changes as well.
Thank you.
So yeah, I guess I can also mention you can change your defaults and you have all the same access to the app that I do. There's nothing I can do that you can't accept, with the exception of I can edit everyone's apps and y'all can only edit your own libraries. But other than that, everything is exact. Like I don't have any special abilities. So if you do want to change that search limit to your own library, I can't to your own library as the default. You could, though, as Jean's mentioned, there might be a benefit in keeping the defaults the same, though you are going to get different results because they're different search engines. So no matter what, it's not going to be totally the same. It should be fairly similar. So yeah, Jean, is there anything else you wanted to talk about related to that in terms of?
No, I didn't need to be 15 minutes. But yeah, I mean, part of this too, I know that like training is a big issue, and I think staff just, at least my library, trying to get people to be aware that there will be different results sometimes when you're doing searching on the app versus, coming into the library or looking on your phone, just on the mobile site. So some of that goes back to training, and I know that came up in the public services user meeting, just kind of the idea of core competencies and getting everybody on the same page. So, but yeah.
Yeah, and there's certainly like elements, I mean, in this case, to just your interface should reflect what you're searching.
Yes.
Enterprise doesn't do that if you have that default set. So
yeah,
I mean,
so it's
going
like,
forward, I certainly strongly have always discouraged anyone from setting that default. I mean, we could make it official, like we're just not going to do it. We're going to always leave it set to all libraries. And as we'll talk about, as we talk more about our timeline, the kind of nice thing is, well, that in a way it's sort of like, well, it's something that we only have Enterprise around for, say, the next year and a half. That would be not that long of a time to live with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I know people coming into the library, like being like, oh, I looked this thing up at home. And it's like, well, I don't know if you looked on the app or if you were on your desktop or whatever. And then they come and you're looking with them on the desktop and it's like not finding it. You never know. Is it their search terms? Is it the gap between
the filters?
Yes. Or
Yeah.
did they actually look up something slightly different that got them different results at that time? So.
Yeah. Right. I think we've got a decision to just recommend keeping those search limits set to all libraries for now. All right. Aspen Discovery update. So here's where we're at on Aspen. So we've got, we're kind of still in the same phase, but we have made in terms of we're still working on configuration. There's still some Symfony problems that we're troubleshooting. And we've got, I'll talk in a second about some of the usability testing that's happened and is happening. But the kind of big most recent development is Aaron made the recommendation to the SWAN board to continue funding for Aspen and to make that, so yeah, to make the recommendation to the board to get the funding to continue for a pilot project. So we got that approval and we're going forth with our pilot phase. So that's kind of that's a big milestone. So that we'll talk more about the pilot. We got that coming up next on the agenda, but the usability testing that's happened, we got a report from Oaklawn on their testing with Oaklawn staff. I can bring, you know what, again, I had everything, all my tabs all nice and lined up, and then I had to restart and lost them. But we can take a look here. I am not logged in. Got our Aspen page here, and we've got the all of our testing stuff is all collected here. So we've got the Oaklawn report here, and then the other set of testing, which was with St. Charles patrons on the EDS integration. It might seem a little weird for the EDS integration to be the first patron feature that we test, but it was done. And like I said, we're still troubleshooting some Symfony things. We want to be all squared away before we do usability testing. So, so we're just kind of testing as things are ready. And is there anything you want to talk about for the staff testing?
I don't think so. I mean, hopefully you guys read the report. I think it was a pretty great experience for us, which I think I had said in a past Ducks meeting. I think we learned that while people maybe express hesitance about using the Ferberized display, they adapt to it pretty quickly. At least our staff members did. Yeah, I think it was a really successful test, and I think it showed that Aspen is very easy for at least our staff to adapt to coming from enterprise. That would be my conclusion, one of my big ones. There were some small things in terms of misspellings and different filters and sort of language on and labeling things, but for the most part, those were small things that can be easily changed, I think.
Yeah, we've got it's actually in our next test, we're gonna look at kind of the display of misspellings and how we might be able to just like visually make that more obvious to users, the kind of spelling corrections. Then you'll see kind of like hold wait times are a mystery was one of your findings, and then the finding newest books and publication dates was an issue in both catalogs. People kind of weren't sure how to sort by publication date, use the publication date filters.
Which I will say, like, sorry to interrupt, that was a huge surprise to us, I think, in testing. I really thought, especially with staff, they'd be savvy enough to figure out how to sort that pretty quickly, but it was a huge issue.
Yeah, in both catalogs. So,
Ange, I got a question. Since you did this on a non-SWAN catalog, Aspen, have any of the staff that did this gone back and looked at the Aspen that's configured for SWAN to see if they felt more at home because of just terminology and locations? I just wonder how much felt foreign because it wasn't our data.
I don't have an answer to that. I suspect no one has gone and looked at it because we have not talked about it as a staff really. So I'm guessing that no one would be looking at it. The Ducks, I'm sorry, our UX committee did look at it, but it was still in pretty early stages and a lot of stuff wasn't configured yet. So we just haven't looked at it recently. I will say, I think the publication date stuff that carries from, I don't think that is going to change based on the instance of the Aspen catalog. I'm not sure about hold wait times. That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to dig into that a little more. Then you can also read on the EDS report, which really, I don't know, Robin, if you have anything you want to pipe in about the EDS testing. I just want to say we had one person use their phone, and I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be a ride, and it was great. He did great. He had no trouble at all.
He seemed to have the most technical ability though, as well.
Yeah, he did.
And we also had someone using Internet Explorer.
Any findings that you want to call out, Robin?
Well, we did make some recommendations, and something that I'll show later is the placards, and so I think that was a good recommendation. I think that was our #1, which was to have that show up. But yeah.
And I think this very next release, one of our recommendations was that the search results didn't show the source, which is like, the publication itself, the journal name, and then they didn't show the dates. So, and a lot of people have trouble sorting by publication date. They were definitely looking for those in the search results for articles, especially. So I think that's getting added in this next release coming out maybe next week, I think.
Yeah.
And then the drop down menus are also people actually struggled with them less than an enterprise. I have like my own little personal hypothesis that that's because of where they're placed, that they're like, you have more of a logical progression, like you enter your term and then you narrow it down, even though it's still a pre-filter, just having it that kind of right to left, I think is my theory. It might be totally wrong, but people got a little bit confused as to like what was in each limit, especially there's that label for like online collection, which is the e-stuff, and then the articles and databases. So gotta look at those labels and see what might be better. And I think those are the big things.
Hey, Tara, can you show where the ducks report is that you guys did on the relevancy? Because that was really good.
Oh yes, that's on the same page. So we got our, I think y'all saw this at a previous meeting, but yeah, these are all the scores from the activity that y'all did. Oh gosh, that was just our last meeting. It feels like so long ago. So yeah, if you want to read the specific, kind of go through some of the specific comments are fun too. I try to call out some of the particularly odd cases for us to dig into. So anything with those reports? We've got some more testing coming up. I think I'm really, so far, I might take this back at some point, but so far I thought the online testing format actually went super well, because it was, I don't know how you felt about it, but it was kind of nice because you could just do it, especially for us, like we're configuring right now, so we were able to like do a test and we don't have to kind of cram them all into, a certain number of visits. So we just they're like 30 minutes, they're short. We made them shorter than the in-person tests, and then we got kind of more time spaced out in between to do some configuration changes if there's anything that's helpful. So like for the EDS test, we were able to change up the design of the placards and kind of test some different display things that Robin will talk about. So that was kind of nice. So we got another one coming up with Elmwood Park patrons, and then that we're recruiting for as we speak. And then I think our next one will be on patron account features. And that one's sort of TBD based on when we get some of these Symfony configuration things done, like stuff like just enabling like freezing and unfreezing holds, and I think that's one of the big ones we're waiting on. Any questions about the usability testing? I was gonna say there's plenty. So if any of y'all are interested in being a testing library, it's, I don't know if Sarah has anything to say. If it was super, especially the online usability testing is pretty low maintenance.
Yeah, we really didn't have to do anything.
Yeah,
It was
you
awesome.
can just show up and observe and
Yeah,
take some
yeah,
notes, but
yeah.
there's no booking rooms or anything like that. So
Yeah, I mean, our experience with it at Oak Lawn was really positive. I think we I think ran it more than, I mean, we did the testing essentially, and it was our first round as a UX group. And I thought that there was something about the virtual nature of it that made it easier for us than an in-person would have been. I mean, it helped that it was our staff, so we mostly knew everybody we were talking to. But yeah, I just felt like it was a really great way to do testing.
something that's really nice is you can see everything. And like I've done mobile testing in person, and it's really hard to see what people are doing on their phone. But having someone just using their phone to do the tests and screen sharing their phone, you could see everything. It was really nice. Even though it's oddly easier to record, I found that I didn't need to refer to the recording as much because it's just so much easier to see what people are doing. So yeah, so I don't know, going forward, we might keep up the doing more frequent online testing, and then, mixing it up with some in-person. And that's more of a possibility again. So yeah, we want to look at the e-resource download process, materials requests that Dawn's going to demo later, and then probably other things that come up along the way. Is there anything specific that y'all really want to see how patrons react to or test with patrons or staff?
I guess I have well, it should be expected for me, but as a youth services staff member, do we have any information about how kids and teens react to Febreze displays or not?
No. So that would be a good thing to test. I mean, definitely testing with minors always comes with its sort of own set of just challenges and things you have to kind of be prepared for. But so we could definitely do like a testing with a parent and their child.
Yeah, that sounds like it might be worthwhile just to see how it's different.
Yeah.
I think Michelle and Messenger just volunteered to do that, Tara.
I think maybe you did.
We schedule it ahead of time. I will do my best. I have someone going on maternity leave next week.
Okay. Well, it's not
If
gonna happen
Messenger
next week.
can't, Downers Grove.
Okay.
If Messenger can't, Downers Grove could too.
All right. And you would help recruit?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, that might be a situation. I mean, we could probably do some online recruiting and just have like a careful screener. But it also might just help if you have some patrons in mind. So yeah, I'll be in touch about setting those up. So I think for the usability testing or just testing in general with staff, it is a little bit of a different thing because there's they're the expert users, and there might be an extent to which kind of having more having an avenue that's better uncovering like all the weird situations that staff will be in and their needs is more helpful than doing usability testing with like a set of predefined tasks. But so I think we're going to think more about some of the testing activities to do with the staff that are at the pilot libraries that participate in the Aspen pilot. Because at that point, that staff would be using it and getting training and that kind of thing. So we could identify some of the things that could help them in their work with patrons. And also look at the admin features. Will be easier when you've got admin accounts and all that stuff set up. Anything else on usability testing? Let me just make sure. Yes, we're on our. And then yeah, I just want to see if there's any comments from the Aspen staff training. Any questions y'all had from that? I didn't really get any I don't think we had much action on the forums afterwards. Any thoughts, takeaways?
I showed it off to my staff and they're really excited.
Oh, yay!
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm sorry I missed the actual live training. I got the time wrong, but I watched the recording and just seeing them go through the various features, and it seemed better than what we had looked at previously. So I don't know if it was just seeing more features than we had previously discussed or whatnot, but it looked really nice. So, and the Mark and all three of the people just seemed very nice and friendly and responsive.
They are.
Work with,
They're
so
lovely.
Yeah, it was good. I was just going to add, I'm doing the Online Connect conference this year, and I saw the session that I guess all the Aspen people were doing, and it was just like again reinforcing that like they're very user friendly and really want to work with libraries to get the discovery layer they want.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely been our experience.
Sarah, what did you say? What conference was that you said Online Connect? What's that?
This year, Computers and Libraries and Internet Librarian combined to do one online conference, and it's actually going on this week. But the folks from Aspen did a session on, I forget if it was Monday or Tuesday, and had two of the libraries that are doing Aspen actually had folks from those libraries talk a little bit too about their experiences. And it was nice because they were both consortiums, but like one does some of their support in-house and one contracts completely with Bywater for support. So it's kind of interesting to hear kind of the contrast between the two.
Okay, cool.
Was that
Thanks.
for Aspen specifically or for were they like Koha ILS libraries?
I forget. They were longtime customers, so I think they were both libraries that had used Pica before and have now migrated to Aspen.
Okay. What were the libraries by chance? I'm just curious.
Click and Uinta County.
Okay, yeah.
And so when they were asking like during the question and answer portion about like problems they had, like most of their problems were dealing with the fact that like years ago when they first adopted, there weren't as many tools to make this transition as easy. And now the technology is caught up with what they want to do. So it really has been an easier transition.
I think they did a version of that talk maybe a month or so ago, like as a practice. But I don't know that I don't think I got a recording of it. It might have just been they didn't provide the recording since they're gonna do it for the Connect stuff. But yeah, I first found out about Pica or Pika, I still don't know how to say it, in like the 2014 Internet Librarian Conference. So it's been a long journey to get here, but I'm excited. Any other comments from the staff training? Features that you want to see more in depth?
Hey, Sarah, and anybody else, if you come across any of those presentations being done or recordings, can you share them in the online forum so we can all take a look, find out more?
Sure. I don't know how shareable this is going to be because it was
yeah, probably not.
Probably
you know,
not.
you have to pay to get into computers and libraries, but I might be able to share the slides.
Great, thanks.
So I thought we'd talk a little bit about the Aspen pilot phase. So this is not all planned out by any means, which is good. I want to kind of get your feedback early on, now that we're sort of heading down this road. So I thought I'd just outline what we're thinking of right now in terms of what it would involve. And then we can talk through, if this is totally unreasonable or, any questions you might have or things you haven't thought of. So our thought right now is we'd have the pilot libraries. I think we've said this before, but about 5 to 7 libraries. We want to keep it small enough that we can really give everyone a lot of attention. And it's, because the pilot libraries, you're probably going to find lots of issues, and that's what we want. We want to make sure, we don't create the problem of, 20 to 50 libraries involved would mean you just have that overhead of responding to everyone, and tracking everything becomes more difficult. So I thought 5 to 7 is probably a sweet spot. And then in those 5 to 7 libraries have 2 to 3 staff members that would be the pilot leads. So they'd be kind of our main SWAN contacts, and we would meet with them weekly, and talk about any issues they found, update them on development that's happening to address the issues that they found, and then there would be trainings also, and research kind of homework assignments. So yeah, so those weekly meetings would be kind of a big time commitment, but a big part of making sure we're making the most of the pilot. Then so the pilot leads would obviously, this would take up a lot of their time, so between the meetings and the research assignments, and then you would be configuring your own catalogs, which is exciting, but also just so different than Enterprise, which has sort of been by its nature like SWAN's taking care of it. And it's not that we won't continue to take care of lots of things for you, but there's just a lot more that you can do. And we want to make sure we're testing all the staff functions as well as those patron facing functions. So, and then on top of the pilot lead time, there'd be library staff time. So all of the library staff would get training on supporting patrons in Aspen, using it in their work, in advance of a kind of a beta go live to your patrons. And so and then that would be the other kind of piece of the commitment, is you would have to commit to the timeline of releasing the Aspen beta link, like on your library website, just kind of as a like, hey, here's another version of the catalog we're testing out. We want your feedback. And then of course, accepting all that patron feedback. So we can still work some details out about how that beta launch would work. We could definitely help with, we could create like potentially like web forms that patrons could use and staff could use to enter in feedback and that kind of thing, to help make that all smooth. But that would be the basic commitments for the library. And then for those pilot leads, this is sort of the roles we're envisioning. And I definitely want to get your feedback on this because partly because for the pilots, this will be important, but also going forward, we sort of have 3 sort of defined roles that we've set up for kind of different staff areas. And we've sort of just taken a stab at what probably libraries would want and how your libraries are based on how you're staffed and what you'd want people to have access to. So for example, there are certain things that you may not want everyone in your library to be able to swap out your logo and your theme. Certainly the libraries I worked at have been very protective about those kind of things. So, so just want to make sure we kind of get the balance of the roles right. So there'd be a public services lead, and this would also it'd be kind of public services and potentially technical services staff might be involved in this role. Anyone in if you're in like collection development, this might also like kind of fit for you. But basically someone that would be responsible for They might manage materials requests, so patrons placing requests through the catalog for purchases. You may not necessarily like work in ILL, but you might coordinate, like have, be able to coordinate with your ILL staff and how that whole process would work. That's something we really want to dig into, is that whole process and aspect of using it for materials requests. The masquerade mode is actually something everyone would have access to, all staff working with patrons, and the permissions on that will work a little differently. Like we can assign that by key type. So, but we do want to have someone that's like knows it in and out, and will test it out for us. And then browse categories. You're gonna see a demo from Crystal on that in a minute, but that's kind of creating all those lists and things to feature in your catalog. And then placards, using those to kind of first, for example, for consumer reports and e-resources that are in the catalog. And there might be some other ways creative ways you can use that. So Robin will be showing that in a minute. So that'd be the public services lead. Then we have a cataloging lead, and this one would be available to cataloging libraries only. That doesn't mean that you can't be in the pilot if you're not a cataloging library. We just want to have 2 probably of our pilot libraries at least that are cataloging libraries, so we can test some of the stuff out. But that would be the role given to anyone that would be responsible for side loading, so including MARC records from Canopy, for example, and then grouping and ungrouping records. We thought we should limit those to catalogers only, because it's a lot of power to that really affects our cataloging and our data. And then the third role is a web and communications lead. So if your library, if there's a small library that wants to participate, this would likely be the role, and they really only offer up 1 or 2 people, then we might just give them this role. So it's sort of like the public services lead role, but with the plus of you'd have a little more access to create your library's theme, so all the colors and the logo and all of that stuff, which I'll be doing a show and tell on. And then you'd be updating, you'd be responsible for your library's contact information and hours. And if, say, your library has a closure, this is something the SWAN staff have wanted for forever, for y'all to be able to post your own alerts on your catalog. If you're closed, if a library car drives through your library, which has happened in my tenure at SWAN, any random thing, water main breaks, you can post that if you want to your own catalog. And then this role would also test out placards and spotlights, which would be embedding those browse categories or those lists into your library catalog. Okay, so I'm gonna stop talking. Tell me what you think about these roles. Are there people in your library that you can imagine would be able to easily occupy them?
I'm a little confused about the middle one. Not all libraries would be able to have that, is that correct?
That is what that is what we've talked about so far.
Okay, that makes sense. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding it.
Yeah, it'd just be for cataloging libraries.
But they would still, all libraries would have content side loaded by SWAN.
Yes, every library could have,
all of us would reap the benefits of the grouping and ungrouping of records that people in BIB services staff at SWAN and our cataloging libraries do. So it's we're all reaping the benefits of this work, but that role at the library level would be kind of a cataloging high-end level, right?
Yeah.
You can't see me, but I'm definitely nodding. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. We're I don't know if giving everyone access to group and ungroup records, because you're essentially creating kind of almost authority files for those. If that's the
Scott's
greatest
here.
thing.
Let's see what it, Scott, how do you feel about that, knowing how it works behind the scenes?
I mean, I was part of this decision, so I definitely
Yeah.
agree with it. But yeah, it is, and that's exactly, she just hit it on the head. It's the fact that you are sort of creating these, and you can actually look at them when you're in the Aspen at the little authority records that you make. They're kind of cute little title author combos that so yeah, it's very much linked to knowledge of how our catalog works, and what constitutes separate records versus things that should be grouped. So it's yeah, it makes sense to me as well.
What about the public services lead? Is that too? I don't know. Is it too? Is there like one person? That was one thing I was sort of thinking about. Is like, well, you've got, especially in some libraries, you just have public services, and some you'll have like youth and adults and different kind of ways of managing collection development and readers advisory. Sort of, is there a person that could be the lead for testing these things?
So Tara, even if they participated in the pilot and tested all of these things, it could be that in reality, a library might split these roles, right? I mean, the role would be the same, but the responsibilities, you might not do all these things in real life down the
So you'd
road.
have like, these would be sort of your permissions, but it would not necessarily be like what you have to do. So as the lead, it would be your responsibility basically to make sure all those things work for your library. So you might work closely with, like say there might be we could potentially have two. I could see having two people in the public services lead. I don't want to have a ton of people because that just makes it really hard to start to scheduling things between, like, if you start thinking 3 people at each library, 5 to 7 libraries, it's like that starts to get to be a tough group to schedule. So that's kind of purely my reasoning there, but definitely I think that role is going to be more collaborative than the other two, I think. That's my theory.
So I don't want to speak for everybody, but right now the way the libraries are working right now, it's really hard to I work a full day, but I'm half at home, half at work, and so like the library world right now, it's hard to make a commitment to that really big load. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, and maybe that's why people are just like not talking, because it's
I should be clear, I'm not asking any of y'all. Don't have to like make this commitment right now or ever. I mean, eventually I think we'll all be looking at a migration, but it's not automatically assumed that because you're in docs you have to be a pilot library or anything like that. So that is something to take in consideration. How are y'all feeling? Is like is the weekly meeting just like, would that just be a non-starter for your libraries?
I'm speaking for Oaklawn here. I don't think the weekly meeting would be the hang up is going to be getting all of these different departments on board to do this. Like, I'm here as public services and I can say yes. I mean, we're not a cataloging library, so that's not going to be a thing for us at this point. But I mean, I would have a really hard time. The web communications lead would have to be our PR person, and that would be a discussion, and it would be a hard one. Where we are right now, we're doing a website migration, so it would be tough.
Yeah, I had one library that volunteered that said, yeah, we're doing a library remodel, so it'd be great to have a new catalog at the same time as our remodel. And I'm like, that sounds like a lot.
Yeah, we're
but
heading
only,
into that ourselves.
Oh,
we're
go
doing
ahead.
a remodel. We're doing a remodel as well as revamping our service model. So Indian Prairie's got to be added.
Tara, I just want to say one thing related to whatever the workload, whatever, and the timeline. This is likely pilots are gonna be really heavily involved, say like January through March, right? That's gonna be
Yeah,
the real
maybe
heavy
we could
time.
just go ahead and show our timeline here that we've been kicking around. So it would
And I
be,
would just say any of you that are really passionate about this and passionate about features, you should put a plug in to your library director and your colleagues, because we have been very pleasantly surprised at the receptiveness of our ideas. So when we present things to Aspen and talk them through, or I should say the Bywater team in development of Aspen, they really do turn things around and brainstorm quite a bit with us. So those pilot libraries are going to have a strong voice in what this ends up looking like for all of us. Now I scared everybody away.
I'll talk to Joy, and Joy and I can talk it out, and maybe talk to Julie. But it just there's a lot going on in the world right now, and it's hard to make that commitment because who knows what's going to happen in January.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, that is also, you know, that's kind of part of it, is you make plans and then adjust as needed. Yeah, and we could also talk about just like frequency of meetings, if like every other week is more doable, and like kind of what the timeline is for configuration. I think I don't think the configuration responsibilities are crazy. But I will say that the biggest ones would be the theme, which you could go as crazy or as not crazy with as you want. I think our sort of the plan right now is to maybe have a couple like out of the box themes, just like a blue one and a red one and a yellow one or whatever. And then libraries could, especially as we get further along past the pilot phase and have our onboarding libraries, and they could kind of just upload a logo, pick a color, call it a day kind of thing. The manage requests is a little bit of setup on our end, but isn't too crazy. So a lot of it's just the training. And that kind of thing. And then for cataloging libraries, it's testing out the side loading, I think would be the other end, and would be sort of the biggest configuration piece there. Browse categories, I think, are just fun, but that's me. So that, yeah, our milestones are looking at tentatively right now are to try to kick something off in December after we have on top of all this, we have 3 libraries going live on December 9th. So we're looking at maybe a kickoff after that, just so we can, a lot of our SWAN staff will be just super focused on getting those libraries through the migration. So that kickoff would kind of start off the training process. We'd likely start training even in that first meeting. Then we'd have a kind of configuration period where you're creating those browse categories, working on your theme, all that kind of stuff between December and January. And then with a target of training library staff by also in January, and then releasing your beta link in February. So that would be sort of like get a sneak peek link. And then we do some research activities, keep working on configuration and development. That's just going to be like an ongoing thing to tweak and work with Bywater and bring feedback to them. And then full member go lives could start in May. I think for that, we're looking that libraries would have like cohorts. So we should probably schedule them maybe bi-monthly was what we were last throwing out. Just so we kind of have like a group of libraries that we're, as SWAN staff, we're working on to get all set up and ready to go live. And then if there's libraries that aren't, you know, not ready to go live in May, that's fine. You can go live in, you know, August or November or something of the next year. But then if we, you know, unless we come up with any showstoppers, then we would be retiring Enterprise by April 29th, 2022, because we'd be taking it off our Cersei Dynix contract. So it would be gone by then. So what are your thoughts on that timeline? Is it scary? Is it exciting?
I'm excited about it. I really want to be a part of the pilot, but I don't think Oak Lawn can handle it right now. I think it'd be awesome, but I don't think we can do that right now. But I want to be in that first group to go live. That's what I want because I love Aspen and I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the timeline looks great, and I don't know whether we would be able to be a pilot or not, but I'm excited by it. So
Who thinks they'd want, right? So like if you were like, is there anyone that's like, I would want to go at the tail end of this? I'm just curious. And who's like, I'd want to go live in May or summer 2020. I should have made a poll. I did make a poll. You can't do that.
So this is a good, that question's a really good tie-in to, if you don't go live in May, how long do you have to wait because of summer reading? So the whole summer reading formula, does that put us in a freeze from when's the start of that freeze to the end of that freeze to accommodate summer reading and not change things?
Like a hair in my eye.
I can't speak for everyone, but our summer reading is right now 100% on Beanstack, none in person. And I don't think that would influence our ability to go to the catalog at all. Like if we had to push it till June or July, I don't think that would be an issue.
Yeah, I agree with Ange.
Yeah, I would agree as well.
That's good.
I don't think next summer is going to be a lot different from this summer. I think it's going to be all online here too.
Yeah, you know, it's something I don't have a sense of too. Like I had, you know, 2019 Tara had really different plans for how 2020 was going to go. I'm sure it's the case for many of you. But I had this like vision of like, oh, we'll put the new catalog on like all of the OPAC computers in the library, and then we'll just like hang out and watch people use it. And then like I don't even know. I haven't checked. I know some of y'all are open to the public, and some of y'all are just still just doing like curbside and hold pickup, right? Is there anyone who here is open to the public right now?
We are.
we are.
Carol Stream is.
I know it is.
Downers
Okay.
Grove is.
We are.
Okay, so most of you have browsable stacks then. Okay.
Yeah, Indian Prairie
Okay.
is open.
Yeah, I think that will help in terms of surfacing issues. But yeah, I know for some libraries they're not, they don't have browsable stacks, but I don't necessarily want to make that like a, you know, something that would exclude you from participating because there's still a lot to uncover there. All right.
Yeah, we just expanded hours after Labor Day here, so.
Okay. Okay, well. Oh yeah, I had the slide of who I want to be live by summer 2021. So it sounds like summer reading isn't a big factor, at least for all of your libraries. Yeah, before we wrap, any other concerns or questions about
I
the
don't know
pilot?
about summer reading being a concern. I would say no, but it's such a smaller thing in the adult department than it is in the youth department that I'd hate to say, hey, no problem, summer reading, whatever, it'll happen. Because they kind of like, you know, shut down doing anything else during summer reading. So I hesitate to answer that, but I would dearly love to be one of the first groups that goes live with this. I think it's a great product.
That's good to hear. Is there any other timeline things that would be a concern? And obviously, like redesigning your service model and a and you're doing a renovation are all big projects. But are there other kind of things coming up that we're not thinking of? And that kind of January to March timeline. And all I could think of was like conferences, but those aren't really long enough necessarily to impact stuff. So I don't know if there's any other big programming pushes or anything, but just wanted to check. Cool. So I think Dawn and Erin and I are going to meet next week, I believe, about just trying to brainstorm like how we do, like how we pick the pilot libraries, how we gather, is it volunteer? Is it, what do we do? And so yeah, we should have more, keep working on this plan. Yeah, and we might look at some other steps too to get a gauge of like what's going to be a reasonable time commitment for libraries. I'm not gonna lie, I was secretly hoping some of the work from home and more off desk time situations might like help create some room for for trainings and configurations, but it sounds like it's may still be kind of tough to work around. All right, so I think we've got, next up is a break. Do you want to take like how much, do you want to take a 10-minute break and then be back for show and tell?
Sure.
Sounds good.
Okay. See y'all at 10 till 3.
Okay.
Alrighty.
All right. So, what you're looking at here is a Firefox browser with St. Charles, Oak Park, National University, and Elmwood Park beta for Aspen and in different tabs at the top. So I'm gonna share with you about placards first, which is a really cool way to add some access points to the catalog. All right, so I'm an administrator and I've already logged in here. And in this little hamburger, you can see there's an Aspen administration. And in there, you'll see all of this stuff. Under local catalog enrichment, you'll see something called placards. Okay, so first I want to show you for St. Charles one that I've added. This is one that we tested during our usability study earlier this month, consumer reports. So the great thing about placards is that we've not really had this opportunity with Enterprise, but you can make the actual, because you don't want to, add a catalog record for a database. but you can make the actual database available in the catalog this way. So I did a search in the library catalog for consumer reports, and for this entry, I just called it Consumer Reports Database. And this is what it looks like. And if you click it, then you'll go to Open Athens for login. Have we talked about this at all yet?
I think it was demoed briefly in the, I think at least the patron end was demoed briefly in the staff training.
Okay, so yeah, so if you go back to the catalog enrichment, under the admin, we talked about the roles there for a moment, but I'm sure these will be defined more clearly later for who will have the ability to add local catalog enrichment for placards. But this is what it looks like, and it's kind of simple once you get the hang of it. So these are all the placards that I've already added. And I'll just take a look at the one that we searched, which was Consumer Reports for St. Charles. And so what you do is, in order to add an access point like that with the placard, you give it a title, and then this dismissible, what that means is that if a person is looking at the entry, they can dismiss it. So if they don't really want to see that each time they search for something, then they can dismiss it from their results. Don't show this again. So that's what this dismissible means. And the body, there's a lot you can do here. It's kind of like anything else where you can add content for a blog or database styles. What we found, and the reason I added it as Consumer Reports Database, is that during our usability studies, it looked a little fishy to one person, and other people were just sort of passing it over. They didn't really know what it was. So I just labeled it exactly, literally what it is, Consumer Reports Database. And then you can also do it in Cascade Style Sheet if you want to add that code. You add the little icon image here. The link would be the same link that you would add on your website. And then you can add some trigger words. So I just added buying guide and consumer reports, but you can add, whatever trigger words. And the trigger words are the search terms. And then because I'm with SWAN and I have the admin capabilities, I can then assign it to scope to the library that I want. But I think when it comes to your admin, you might only have your own library. And then if you have multiple branches, so if you're Oak Park and you want to add it to all the branches, you would do so here. But just because this one's St. Charles, we just have it there. And then you do save changes and return. And so there's a lot of, you can get creative with these things, but I think the important thing to note is that these were, the intention for Aspen for the placards really is to add databases that don't have another way to be accessed through the catalog. And we know from some of the patron use report. Yeah, that Tara did, that a lot of our patrons searched for ancestry while libraries were closed. So this might be a really great way to add that database. So I'll just search the ancestry here. And then so I've added this one for ancestry.
And something we noticed in our usability tests, like patrons did look for the logos, and they also, if it looked too much like an ad, they're like, no, I'm not gonna click that. That's an ad, even though it's the library catalog. But yeah, so we we did know, and one of my requests is to add like a little heading heading option in there that would let you just kind of add a heading that looks just like exactly styled the same as your search results heading to kind of help format that so it looks more
Right,
like a
so it's
search
not
result.
sticking out. Yeah, it looks a little bannery. It looks a little bit like an advertisement, which I think was the intention of the design, but then somehow it makes that somewhat untrustworthy, maybe. And then
But you could maybe just add a line that says provided by,
yeah,
right, in that
Yeah.
text, because it looks like these are links, right? And you wouldn't have
Yeah.
to have the full text be the link, would you? Or does it act that way?
no, it can be, yeah,
We
this
found
is
that having that heading was really helpful. It made the patrons kind of identify it more as a search result and less like an ad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I sort of increased the font size and things like that. But, you know, for your library, I think you could get creative and do what works, you know, best for your library. I'm sure we'll have some recommendations as we move along, but it's
Yeah, we've
really
been using
nice. Huh?
we've been using the terminology IPPL cardholder exclusive.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we
All
could add
right.
that.
I see, because you have some card holders that don't have access. Yeah. Yeah, so there's certain things that you can add for your own library. But I know that like Morningstar and other databases would be really great to have. And one of the recommendations was to add it to the EDS integration as well. It hasn't been added yet, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Last I checked. Who knows? It could be different. Different
No,
today.
it's not yet. I
Okay.
checked it already.
I think that's the next release. I might be wrong.
Oh no. Okay, so that's placards. Is that thorough enough for that one?
So yeah, does anyone have
Sound good?
questions?
Yeah.
It's so cool. Oh my
It
gosh.
is.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, I
love
feel
it.
like once we get this in your hands, you're gonna do a lot of cool stuff with it. Like I'm sure there's so much you can do to play around with, like, yeah, to dig into like the trigger words, and I feel like it's gonna open up a whole fun world of things.
Right, and it's really easy to do actually once you get started. So, and you know, these URLs will just match the URL that's on your website. So you can just pull that information right off of your website.
Question. I thought from the training video, like I think it is fantastic use to advertise the databases, but I thought I remember something in the training that it said like you could, you know, advertise programs or upcoming events or services as well. Like, is it limited to the databases or does it have a wide range of use?
It is literally just it is like just a link and a place to put in some text and you can go crazy. I mean, there's things like your library might want to consider if you're, certainly it is all, there isn't like the ability to say hook that up to your, you know, to get fancy, like, you know, it's not gonna pull in like an advanced events feed, even though you could add that a different way. If you wanted to index, you know, like index your events and that kind of thing. But yeah, so you just have to be careful, you know, for anything like that that has an expiration date that you're managing those and taking them down and that kind of thing. But
Sure.
that's
Right.
kind of
And I
the
don't
thing
think you
with
want to
web pages.
overuse it so that it becomes background noise, but the
Yeah,
potential of
yeah,
it
you could
seems
really
cool.
use it for anything that, yeah, especially if you had like a really big program coming out, you know, like for summer reading or those kind of one book programs. I imagine that would be a really, really good use for those.
But they are search specific, so they're not going to show
There is a trigger
unless.
word that you have to fire to. So there
Yeah.
is that, there is a banner, like a system message banner that's available, but it does look a little, it's not as like, you can't get as fancy with styling it and that kind of thing. Or I guess you can, it has some of the same features, but so you could also use your system banner for certain things like that. Any other questions? Is it browse categories time?
Well, I was going to show you about the open archives real quick.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, so open archives is another addition. It's not under catalog enrichment. Let's see, what do they put that under? Oh, they just put under open archives. Okay, so this is just a way to add, if you have archives, you know, that your library created or that you've featured on your website or or that you're interested in adding, you can add those here to Open Archives collections. So it did take me a minute to figure this one out, but I did. Okay, so St. Charles has an Illinois Digital Library collection, and it's in Open Archives. So it's, let's see.
While you look that up, Michelle had to log out and log in. So, but you're now unmuted, Michelle. And your question about dismissing the placard, does it dismiss a single database placard and not all of them? I
That's a
believe
good
it's per
question.
placard.
Yes, it is. It's
I
per placard.
believe so.
Yes, you can click that button for every placard that you create.
And is
You can
that just for that session, or is that permanent?
It's just for that browser session,
okay.
I think.
Yeah, I think if you stay logged in, it might keep it.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's a good thing to test.
Yes. So this is kind of similar. So the Illinois State Library provides some open access, open archives, and we found one for St. Charles that we added here. So the way that you do it is you find the base URL for the metadata pool, which can be a little bit confusing, but if you have somebody on staff that works in the archives or is familiar with archival metadata, if not, that's fine. I can find it and look it up for you just like I did this one. But so the base URL is going to be the URL that's used to pull the data. And so that's this one. The set name can be a little bit confusing to find because even the Illinois Digital Archives didn't provide like a table of set names. But what I did find is that when I looked through here, I ended up contacting the state library who gave me the metadata set names, but you can find them going through this and going through some help and things. But anyway, I don't want to take up too much time. The set name for this one is STC, and then the subjects are pulled through the metadata. So this is actually Aspen has a built-in harvester, which is really awesome. So you don't really have to do anything other than add your base URL, the set name for the collection that you want to pull, and in this case it's for St. Charles Library. All the subjects are added through the metadata. So I didn't need to apply any subject filters because all of these are added as filters. And then how often do you want the collections added? And then save changes and return. It also has an indexing log that'll tell you about how often it was added or changed or applied, and then how many records are in there. So that is in a drop down called History and Archives. And I'll just show you an example quickly here of what that looks like. And then this is so this all came from the metadata. I didn't have to add any of that. And then this is what the record looks like. And then it goes right over to Illinois Digital Archives. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah. So if you want to add the open access, open archives repositories using this built-in Aspen harvester, that's how you do it. That was really cool. Any questions about that?
Okay, I'm gonna move on to Crystal. I want to make sure we get to everyone. So, Crystal, are you ready?
Sure I am.
All right, you are now the presenter.
Okay.
We see your green screen.
Let me see if I just move this over here. Do you see this now?
Yep.
Okay. So really quickly, I'm going to talk about browse categories and how to create them. So a browse category is basically what you're seeing up here at the top. So ones I created when we were playing around were the Rebecca Cottle Awards. And I worked with Scott on this to make sure, we're able to capture all of them. And then we kind of broke them out by each year. This was something that was brought up that was important to our librarians. So we wanted to make sure that we had a way to create them. So I am going to show you how to do that. So for example, let's say we're going to look for holiday movies. So I'm just doing a very general search. And let's see. Okay, so once you do your search, you can go ahead and limit your results a little bit more over here if you'd like.
Hey, Crystal, if I wanted to see the I really needed the most recent holiday movies. How would could I make a list that did that?
Yeah, you could. You can go down here. You can look at the publishing date. If you wanted to make something that was just for, here we can do by format. We can also do something along the lines of the audience level as well. So
what about the added in the last? I wanted something like the things my library purchased most recently.
I think you've stumped me, Tara. I'm not quite
Just
sure.
above the publication date?
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't see that before. So here you go. You can see when you've purchased these items in the past 2 months, if you wanted to see that, or in the
Even do
past
on
3
order
months.
ones.
Yeah, that's cool.
Pretty rad,
Let's see that. Okay, cool. Awesome. The more you know. Okay, so I'm just going to do a very quick and general search here, holiday movies. And let's say you were fine with this search and you wanted to add this to a browse category at the top on your home screen. So you can come all the way down here and you can see these kind of search tools. There is one that says add to browse. And this is just the very quick way to create these. So I'm going to name this holiday movies. These are subcategories. So what I will note here is when you are creating a browse category, you want to be very careful in how you name them. When you're creating your category names, so if we were for let's say the Abraham Lincoln Award, since we do have these split out by years. And we started with a collection of all, and then we went to these, the general awards, and then we split them out by year. You need to name them as such. And then when you go into something else, like we did Blue STEM, for example, you'll make sure that you want to name them. I initially was trying to just create Blue STEM and the year. So this would have been like Blue STEM Awards and then just each year broken out. However, these have to be very unique. They cannot share any type of name. So you can't just have 2021 and then think it's going to be separate for Abraham Lincoln and Blue STEM. It won't be. They'll combine them. So you have to, or overwrite each other. So you have to make sure that you name accordingly. So in this case, I'm going to leave this here and just create this new category. We will go ahead and see that this was created. Okay, and here it is, holiday movies. So like we see here, if we wanted to create another category within that, let's go ahead and I'm going to search for Hallmark movies. Let's see, here we have this holiday collection. That's what I want. Okay, and now I see I have these here, these 88 titles. I'm going to, again, add to browse. And I'm going to name this Hallmark movies. And then I can go ahead and select the subcategory, in this case, holiday movies. And then I will create it. And when I go here, I'll be able to see these and how they've changed. And again, you can, depending on your search strategies and you can create, what was here? I think there was even one of staff reviews. So if you were, having book clubs or something like that, or you wanted to promote a collection, you could absolutely do that.
Actually, go ahead and click on that staff reviews search, that label there. I think this one might be a list. Yeah. So this one was so you can use a search or a manually created list that's public.
And then you could make it your browse category so everyone can find it. It's interesting. It's pretty cool. I'm sure you guys, when you play around with it, you'll learn more than I ever could. But it's a nice feature to have. So yeah.
Are there any questions about the browse, creating the browse categories?
Is there a limit to how many you can have?
That's a good question. There's probably a limit to like how many people would actually scroll through, I imagine,
Sure.
but we have yet to hit a limit. I will say you can also choose to, like we could have like kind of a consortium. You could choose to just use like a consortia level one, like that's available to everyone, or create your own custom ones for your library. But I believe all of the browse categories are shared across the consortia, so you could use like other libraries. If they've created them, you could steal them and use them for yourself. I think right now they're also editable by anyone, so they'll just be something we'll have to I think that's fine. Just, everyone be a nice neighbor and that kind of thing. But yeah, so they will be shareable across all the libraries as well. All right, I think if there's any other questions, go on once, go on twice. All right, I think it's my turn. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet and show you. All right, I think y'all should be able to see my screen now. So I'm in the Oak Park. I'm actually logged in as that library website manager role. So this is what you'd see. So you'll see you just have access to your theme, so no one you can't sabotage anyone's themes. Not that you would do that, but more importantly, no one can like accidentally edit yours, because you know what? OLS and OPS look very similar, and I have this issue all the time. It's very easy to do that accidentally, so you don't have to worry about that. And then this is what your theme settings look like. So you've got these you can just ignore, but then you can add your own logo. You can add the favicon. That's this like little thing that shows up in your browser tab. I've not done that for anyone except SWAN. I just did that recently. And then you have pretty much access to edit anything and any colors that you see. So for example, we can just change the what do I want to change here? I'll do the something that's going to be very noticeable. We can make the link color, I'll make it red or orange. Okay, and here I get this error for contrast ratio. So you're not gonna be able to save an inaccessible theme, which is kind of awesome. So you will if you get one of these errors, you're not gonna I can go to save, and I'm gonna get an error, and I'm not gonna be able to update the theme. But so if I pick something that's more accessible, this isn't gonna be pretty, but it will be accessible, then I can save my changes. And now you'll see all my links are red. So there are a lot of options. I think what we'll probably do to get everyone started is just have a few out of the box things, like I said, and then there will be a few kind of key things that we can point you to change that will make a big impact. So things I think like the primary background color. If I make that purple, whoop. Let's see, I have to make my text color different. There we go. I'm gonna make this really ugly. I hope Oak Park isn't looking at this right now. You can pretty easily change your background color for the search bar and a few other, and maybe your button colors, and that will probably be enough customization for a lot of y'all, but you can even customize all of your buttons. We've got lots of button options here. So primary button, default buttons, these would be your hold buttons. So you can really go into a lot of depth at editing these, but I did just want to show you that really cool contrast checker, which is just really handy. And then we have a couple different font options here for you. So if y'all know, like there's some other fonts that you need, let us know. I think these are all Google fonts. So if you have some kind of crazy, super expensive font that you have to have a license for, I'm not totally sure we can upload that, but you can. There is an additional CSS area where you could potentially add other fonts. But we can also do our best to upload that, but it is like bonus points if it's a Google font that's easily available and free basically. So yeah, and actually, I should remember this. There's an area here where you can add a file and upload your. I think it has to be a TTF. I want to say. So yeah, any questions about themes? This is like the shortest possible overview, but I just wanted to give y'all a peek at what that looks like.
What does the danger button do?
Danger buttons would be like like, well, let's see. Like, say
Is
if
it
there
like
was
the
an
warning
option to
thing?
delete this theme, then that, like, the delete button would be the danger button.
Ah.
I don't know that patrons, I'm trying to think of a situation where patrons would see the danger button. Oh, but they will. You know what? If there's a, I don't know if this has any, I don't think this account has any reading history or anything set up, but if you were gonna delete something from your lists, oh, there are lists. Okay, here we go. Let's look at this. Well, that, you know, your danger button isn't dangerous there. It's not a, oh, here we go. If it's
Up
saved
there.
for really big things. So if you're gonna totally delete the whole list, then it's very
Okay.
dangery. But the red like almost makes me want to click it more.
Click here.
I know, it's so like, I have noticed that whenever I come across like delete things in the interface, I'm like, I'm drawn to click you. So yeah.
Does the danger button trigger some kind of warning that, hey, you're about to delete your entire list?
Yeah, like a pop-up? Ah, okay.
Are you sure you want to leave this list? Do you really want to do it? Yeah. So yeah, any other theme questions? See if I can. It's straightforward. I mean, it's fairly straightforward. You're really picking colors and fonts, but then there are a lot of options. So at some point we'll have to document them all. I've like forgotten what they all are at this point. So it'll be good for me
And
to
Tara,
document
like you
too.
said, you'll have like some base themes we can all use that
Yeah.
pretty much we're only going to concentrate on maybe 4 or 5 link colors to
And
change to
I definitely want to
match
create, like
identity.
your 5-minute guide, you know, customize your Aspen theme in 5 minutes. And that would be, you know, if you update like these key buttons and that primary background color, then, you know, that's really you're gonna get a lot of bang for your buck in terms of effort there.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, there's no options to put like black text on a black background, so that's good. And yeah, oh, and then there's also, you know, this is kind of fun. Like if you wanna, I feel like the browse categories are somewhere where you could get really fun. Oak Parks isn't particularly fun. I made them like super minimal to match their website, but you can pick all kinds of fun colors for those browse categories that Crystal just showed off. So yeah. All right, I think.
Hey Tara, before you pass it to me, since you're a staff member, can you show manage request from
Yeah, I'll just show. Yeah, I'll totally show that. Sure.
and
Let
then
me go.
I'll show it from the patron perspective.
Here's the administration and materials requests. So here's what that looks like. We got a couple tests in here. So this is if a patron searches, you know what, and let's open this up in another tab. If a patron searches for anything, you can configure your Aspen. Wow, this is really ugly. You can configure your Aspen instance to have this suggest a purchase option. And so these are some test items we put in. So you as a staff member would see all of the information about these items that the patron requested, and then you can say, okay, I'm gonna assign these to a staff member. Like right now we just have one, so I could assign them to myself. But so you can assign them to a certain staff person to deal with, or you can change the status. So that is something we'll want to get your feedback on, but there will be things like, you know, if something's just not available due to a publication date, if you're going to refer it to your collection development department or ILL department, then you can kind of make those updates. Those updates would appear in the patron account, so they could kind of follow along. And then there are also some automatically generated emails based on if the item's not available mostly, then it would just automatically, if you say like, yeah, this isn't going to be published, you could just check that box and it sends a form email to the patron that that item's not going to be available for them. So it's kind of a nice interface to manage those patron requests coming in. I will also say you don't have to use this if you have like a really good system using a web form on your website. There is also the ability to just set Aspen to use a link, and then that will send the patron off to that form on your website. So this isn't like this would definitely be a, opt in, opt out kind of situation.
Do you want me to show the staff, or I mean the patron side of that, Tara?
Sure.
Want me to make a request?
Yeah, let me make you a presenter. Why can't I find my? Why can't I find
your people?
I can't find
Or
my
maybe I
people.
can make
Here we go.
myself presenter.
I think you can, but I think I found it, but I don't see you. Okay.
Okay. Show my screen. I think this is the correct screen. Let's see.
It's orange. Your orange
Okay,
one.
you
There you
see
go.
it?
Yeah.
All right. So as a patron, let me just go to the home page here. And oh, it is so lovely now. That purple and red is just like,
Didn't I make it
whoa.
beautiful?
So I can see anything that I have made requests for in my materials request. And you're going to see they're very similar to what Tara just showed. But notice that I've made 5 out of 50 yearly requests. So you can have limits of how many requests people can make. And you can limit to 10 active material requests at a time. That's just kind of out of the box settings. We can tweak those to whatever people need and want. But I can say, okay, maybe I decide now, this is really old, probably not going to get that one. I'm going to cancel this one. So I'm not going to request that. My request was successfully canceled. Now I can submit a new materials request here, but the best way to do it is really to just do your search. And I'm going to do a search for Now You See It by Stephen Few. So I want to get that book, and I'm looking through here. This is not at all any way related to what I'm looking for. We do not appear to have what I'm looking for in SWAN. So I'm going to suggest a purchase. It retains the title, and the author is Stephen Few. We can configure these fields as well. This is adult, it's nonfiction, the publisher, Analytics Press. Publication year is 2014. Whoops. Don't need to do this, don't need to do that. It is a very big, heavy, expensive book. And right now, for some reason, we have Tara's name populating everything.
That's
I'm
my
not sure.
email.
Oh, that's your.
Yeah, I think for the test patrons, my email just got attached to all of them.
Yeah.
So it will automatically fill in an email. It's just, it's nice.
From the patron record, yeah. So I'm going to submit the material. Now I've used 6 of my 50. So if I go back and I look at my materials request, I kind of see that, let's see, has anything happened to any of these? Let's see, now you see it, the request is pending. This one request is still pending, but I can see that a few of these have already been referred to collection development. So as a patron, I know that they're moving through the system. So that's it. I'm going to stop sharing, send it back to you.
Yeah, so I know we are a smidge over time, but we will hang out if any of you have questions about materials requests. But also if you need to drop out, we understand.
And I just made Tara the presenter. I'm seeing a black screen, but that's fine too.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I have anything to share. Anything else? Any other questions? Maybe everyone left already. No,
People
there's
are
still some
leaving.
people.
Yeah, we're
People are leaving.
short on time. I'm going to
All
stop
right.
the recording now.